test for purity. Remember, a mixture is an impure substance, and we are trying to use all these 14 separation techniques to make them pure, that is, separate them to their different constituents. Now, after we have used all this separation technique to separate our mixture into its various constituents, how do we test if what we are left with is actually pure? That is why we need test for purity. Now, the first one is using the melting or boiling point. If it is a liquid, then we are going to check the boiling point. For instance, we already know that water has a boiling point of 100 degrees Celsius. So let's say we used a separation technique method of distillation to get pure water, and we want to test if the water is actually pure. So what we can do is we should see if the water actually boils at 100 degrees Celsius using a thermometer, and if it doesn't boil at 100 degrees Celsius, if the temperature increased more than 100 degrees Celsius and the water hasn't boiled, that means the water still contains some impurity, because impurities, they increase the boiling point of liquids. Now, if it is a solid, how can we test for the impurity? We can use the melting point. We know that the melting point of water, again, which is ice, is 0 degrees Celsius. So if the ice should melt below 0 degrees Celsius, then we know that the ice is impure. Why? Because impurities, they lower the melting point of a particular substance. Again, another thing we can use to know is if it boils or melts at a range. Now, pure substances, they have these characteristics. A pure water will melt at 0 degrees Celsius. Let's say the temperature was at -5 degrees Celsius and it is still ice. When it increased to -4 degrees Celsius, -3 degrees Celsius, -2 degrees Celsius, -1 degree Celsius, it will still be ice. And suddenly when it gets to 0 degrees Celsius, it is going to break down immediately, instantaneously, and become water. So it will not melt at a range, but if there is impurity present, it might start melting at about -3 degrees Celsius, -2 degrees Celsius, it is still melting, -1 degree Celsius, it is still melting, 0 degrees Celsius, it is still melting. So that is a range. It doesn't melt immediately. The same applies to boiling. If it boils at a range, that means there is impurity present. And remember, under chromatography, when we are talking about separating different solutes from a solvent, so we said the different solutes are going to have different spots on the chromatographic paper. Now, if you do the same test for the pure substance and you have only one spot, you don't have different spots on the chromatographic paper, that means the substance is pure. Because if it is not pure, you are going to have different spots at the end of the test. So that's how you do test for purity.